The pre-dawn chill of Canyon Creek, Arizona, clung to everything at 4 a.m., a silent, almost palpable presence. Within the manicured confines of Sunrise Terrace, where townhouses huddled together in uniform beige and terracotta, a more profound cold was at work. Owen Thorne, 30 years old and blessed with a deceptive handsomeness that had charmed many, including Lena, wrestled with a monumental burden. It was a heavy, shapeless mass, wrapped tautly in an old, coarse canvas tarp, and its true weight seemed to press down not just on Owen's muscles, but on the very stillness of the hour. The only sounds were the rough fabric scraping against the flagstone path, a low, guttural drag that reverberated in the unnatural quiet, and Owen's own ragged, controlled breaths. Each exhalation was a puff of white in the frigid air, quickly dissolving, like so many inconvenient truths. His movements, though strained, were precise, almost mechanical. There was no wild panic, no frantic haste, only a chilling, calculated efficiency in the way he maneuvered the bundle, guiding it towards the open trunk of his aged, black SUV. The vehicle itself was an anonymous silhouette, a dark void against the nascent gray of the eastern sky, its dull paint reflecting none of the streetlight's feeble glow. The dim, amber light from the solitary street lamp at the corner of Juniper Drive cast long, distorted shadows, making Owen's figure appear gaunt and grotesque as he hunched over his task. His jaw was set, a muscle twitching beneath his smooth skin. He grunted with effort, a sound more of exertion than emotion, as he finally managed to hoist the bulk of the package into the spacious cargo area. The thud was muffled but definitive, a final punctuation mark to an act that had bled into the earliest hours of the new day. He took a moment, pushing the bundle deeper, ensuring it lay flat. Before his eyes, almost involuntarily, darted to the right. Just a few meters away, perched innocently beside the polished oak door of Unit 14, a small, black lens blinked. The sentinel-eyed doorbell camera, a tiny, unblinking witness, its silent recording light a pinprick of crimson against the darkness. Owen knew it was there. He had always known. The cold air seeped through the layers of his clothes, but Owen felt nothing but a dull, persistent throb behind his temples. He was numb, had been for hours. The only sensation that truly pierced the haze was the ghost of a touch, a fleeting echo of the woman whose lifeless weight he had just entombed. Lena Maxwell had been the antithesis of numbness. At 28, she radiated warmth, a quality that drew children to her like moths to a flame at Little Stars preschool. Her smile, often described as luminous, had the power to chase away a child's tears or light up a gloomy classroom. Her patience was legendary, an endless well from which she drew to guide her 5-year-old students through the mysteries of finger painting or the ABCs. But Lena's world was not just Little Stars. It revolved around Lily, her own 5-year-old daughter, a bright-eyed, curious sprite with a laugh like wind chimes. Lily was Lena's universe, the sun around which her every thought and action orbited. Lena was a woman who built love, brick by painstaking brick, even when the foundations of her own home threatened to crumble beneath the weight of unspoken burdens. For the outside world, Unit 12 of Sunrise Terrace housed the picture of suburban contentment. Owen Thorne, Lena's husband, was a master of appearances. With his perfectly coiffed hair, tailored shirts, and an effortless charm that could disarm even the most skeptical, he was the quintessential successful salesman. He spoke with a smooth confidence, a silver tongue that spun tales of ambition and doting husbandhood. Neighbors envied Lena for having such a catch, a man who seemed so devoted, so attentive. But behind the carefully chosen curtains and the locked door of their apartment, a different Owen emerged. The charming facade would peel away like old paint, revealing the brutal, controlling man Lena had come to dread. Here, in the sanctum of their shared life, he was a tyrant. His weapons were not always fists, though those came often enough, leaving bruises Lena would painstakingly conceal with scarves, long sleeves, and layers of makeup. More insidious were his words, a venomous torrent of emotional abuse that chipped away at her self-worth, making her question her sanity, her judgment, her very existence. He controlled her with fear, a suffocating blanket woven from threats and psychological torment. His favorite, the one that held her captive more effectively than any physical restraint, was the threat against Lily. You leave me, Lena, he'd snarl, his eyes cold and hard, and I'll make sure you never see that child again. I'll paint you as an unfit mother, a hysterical wreck. The courts will give Lily to me. You'll be nothing. The terror of losing Lily, of seeing her sweet face replaced by a blank space, was Lena's most formidable jailer. Chloe Barnes, Lena's best friend and fellow teacher at Little Stars, knew fragments of the truth. She was a woman with a keen eye and a compassionate heart, and the carefully constructed walls Lena had erected couldn't completely hide the cracks. Chloe had seen the telltale bruises, the fleeting fear in Lena's eyes when Owen's name came up, the way Lena would suddenly flinch at a raised voice in the staff room. She'd seen the subtle shifts in Lena's demeanor after a rough patch at home, the way her radiant smile would dim, replaced by a weary resignation. Lena. Chloe had pleaded countless times over coffee breaks, her voice hushed. You have to leave him. Hez going to kill you, or worse, Hez going to break you completely. What about Lily? What kind of life is this for her? Lena would just shake her head, her gaze fixed on her swirling coffee. You don't understand, Chloe. Hell take her. He means it. He has lawyers, money. I have nothing. I can't risk it. Not Lily. The fear, always the fear of losing Lily, had been the immovable anchor. Then, this summer, something had shifted. Perhaps it was the oppressive heat of the Arizona sun, or the relentless, stifling weight of Owen's control. But the chains had begun to chafe in a different way. The threats, once Lena's gallows, slowly, irrevocably, transformed into a catalyst. One sweltering afternoon, after a joyful visit to the Canyon Creek Community Park, Lena watched Lily chase butterflies, her laughter echoing through the trees. Lily's small hands reached for the colorful insects, her face alight with pure, unadulterated joy. In that moment, watching her daughter, Lena realized the terrifying truth. Staying with Owen was no longer protecting Lily. It was condemning her. It was teaching her that love meant pain, that silence was safety, that joy was a fleeting, fragile thing easily shattered. The thought of Lily growing up to understand the ugly reality of her mother's life, of being trapped in that same cycle of fear, was a pain far greater than anything Owen could inflict. The decision solidified in her heart with a quiet, fierce certainty. It was a cold, hard knot of resolve, cutting through years of fear and doubt. That evening, after Lily was tucked into bed, dreaming of butterflies and playgrounds, Lena made the call. Her hand trembled as she dialed Chloe's number, but her voice, when she spoke, was steadier than she had thought possible, though tinged with an undeniable tremor. "Chloe," Lena whispered, the words barely audible, yet vibrating with newfound strength. "I'm gonna do it. I'm leaving Owen. I'm taking Lily with me." A stunned silence on the other end, then Chloe's choked gasp. "Lena? Are you serious? Oh my God, Lena! Finally!" Her friend's voice was a mixture of overwhelming relief and dawning fear. They spoke for a long time, meticulously planning, whispering strategies into the phone, the enormity of the decision hanging heavy in the air. That was just yesterday. It was the last conversation they would ever have. The fateful night had begun like many others in Unit 12. Lily, a small bundle of energy finally spent, had drifted into a peaceful sleep in her room, surrounded by glow-in-the-dark stars Lena had painstakingly affixed to the ceiling, each one a tiny promise of light. The soft, luminous points cast a faint, ethereal glow, turning her small sanctuary into a miniature galaxy. Lena had waited until the rhythmic sound of Lily's breathing had settled into a steady, deep cadence. Her heart pounded against her ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. But this time, it wasn't just fear. It was mingled with a fierce determination, a resolve fueled by the image of Lily chasing butterflies. She found Owen in the living room, engrossed in a sports game on TV, a beer in his hand. He glanced up, a lazy, dismissive look, then returned his attention to the screen. "Owen," Lena said, her voice surprisingly firm, though a slight tremor betrayed her inner turmoil. He grunted, not looking at her. "What now, Lena?" She took a deep breath, the words a bitter taste on her tongue. but she pushed them out. I'm leaving you. I'm filing for divorce. And I'm taking Lily. The air in the room seemed to freeze. The roar of the crowd from the TV faded into an insignificant hum. Owen slowly lowered his beer, his eyes, previously placid, now narrowing into cold, hard slits. The charming mask, the one he wore for the world, began to crack, then shatter. What did you say? He asked, his voice low, dangerously soft. Lena met his gaze, refusing to flinch. I said, I'm leaving. I'm tired, Owen. I can't do this anymore. Lily deserves better. Asterisk. I times deserve better. A muscle in Owen's jaw clenched. The initial shock gave way to a chilling, brutal rage that ignited in his eyes. It wasn't the volatile, explosive anger of a man losing control. It was the cold fury of a predator whose prey had dared to challenge him. You think you can just times leave, asterisk? He sneered, rising slowly from the couch, his towering figure casting an intimidating shadow over her. You think you can just waltz out of here with times my times, daughter? After everything I've done for you? You ungrateful bitch. The argument escalated, a cacophony of his escalating accusations and Lena's desperate pleas for understanding, for peace, for a future for her child. His words, sharp as shards of glass, turned into shoves. Her defiance, fueled by an adrenaline-laced courage, was met with raw, unadulterated violence. The struggle was brief, brutal, and utterly terrifying. There was a desperate gasp, a choked cry, a sound that Lena could not have known would be her last, stifled as it was. Then, an abrupt, horrifying silence descended upon the apartment. A silence so profound, it seemed to absorb all light and sound, leaving only the deafening echo of an unfulfilled life. Back in the frigid pre-dawn, Owen Thorne slammed the trunk of the SUV with a resounding thud that seemed impossibly loud in the quiet street. The sound ricocheted off the stucco walls of the townhouses, then dissipated, swallowed by the still air. He didn't linger, didn't allow himself a moment of relief. The plan was meticulously rehearsed, every step etched into his memory. He retrieved a small, microfiber cloth from his jacket pocket. Crouching, he began to meticulously wipe away any stray debris, any speck of dirt or faint smudge that might have adhered to the flagstone walkway or the polished concrete steps leading up to his door. He moved with a chilling precision, his eyes scanning the ground, searching for anything amiss, any telltale sign of the night's gruesome work. A leaf dislodged from the potted fern by the front door, flicked away. A faint, almost invisible scuff mark near the edge of the stoop, buffed until it vanished. His movements were not those of a man in a panic, but of a professional, an artist of erasure. No detail, however small, could be overlooked. The cold seared his fingers, but he ignored it, his focus absolute. The air, though still, seemed to hum with the unspoken secret he was so carefully burying. As he finished, rising slowly, a pair of headlights cut through the gloom at the far end of Juniper Drive, growing steadily brighter. Miss Clara Jensen, a 50-year-old night nurse at Canyon Creek Hospital, was returning home after a grueling 12-hour shift. Her sensible sedan moved with a familiar, weary grace, its tires humming softly on the asphalt. Clara was tired, her bones aching, her mind already drifting to the warmth of her bed and the promise of strong coffee. Her headlights swept across Owen's figure as he straightened up, the microfiber cloth still clutched in his hand. She saw him by his black SUV, wiping something down, at an hour when most people were deep in sleep. Asterisk, cleaning his car at 3 o'clock in the morning? Asterisk, Clara thought, a flicker of mild surprise interrupting her fatigue. It was certainly unusual. She saw the glint of the cloth, the focused intensity of his posture. A shiver, completely unrelated to the cold air, snaked down her spine. A peculiar chill, a faint, unpleasant premonition, prickled at the back of her neck. He looked so normal, so outwardly respectable, yet his actions, at this ungodly hour, felt wrong, unsettling. She wondered fleetingly if he was having trouble sleeping, or perhaps preparing for an early trip. She considered pausing, offering a tired wave, but her exhaustion won out. She simply drove past, the fleeting image of the man wiping his car a peculiar footnote in her long, draining night. She dismissed it as eccentric behavior, another oddity in the sprawling tapestry of human habits, and parked her car in her own driveway, the bad feeling fading with the rumble of her engine. Owen watched her car pull away, its red taillights shrinking into pinpricks before disappearing around the bend. He waited a beat longer, ensuring the street was deserted once more. Then, with a final, decisive click, he closed and locked the SUV's doors. He strode to the driver's side, opened the door, and slid into the cool, leather seat. The engine purred to life with a quiet roar, a testament to its well-maintained mechanics. He engaged the reverse gear, backed out of the driveway with practiced ease, and turned onto the street. The black SUV, a silent harbinger of grief, glided away, merging seamlessly with the lingering shadows, vanishing into the encroaching darkness just as the first faint hints of purple and rose began to stain the eastern horizon. Owen Thorne had a clear plan, and the desolate expanse of the Arizona desert awaited. 2 days draped themselves over Canyon Creek like a shroud, each hour heavier than the last for Chloe Barnes. Her phone, a constant companion, vibrated with phantom alerts, a cruel trick of her anxious mind. She'd lost count of the times she'd called Lena, the silent void on the other end echoing her growing dread. Lena's voicemail, recorded months ago, played with a cheerful optimism that now felt like a taunt. Asterisk. Hi, you've reached Lena. I'm probably chasing butterflies with Lily or teaching little stars to shine. Leave a message. Asterisk. No return calls, no text replies, just the cold, digital silence. It was antithetical to everything Chloe knew about her best friend. Lena, always meticulously responsive, especially when it came to Lily, would never simply vanish. Not now. Not after their last, heart-wrenching conversation. Chloe sat at her kitchen table, a half-empty mug of coffee cooling beside her. The morning sun, usually a welcome visitor, felt intrusive, mocking her inner turmoil. She stared at the contact photo of Lena on her phone, Lena beaming, Lily perched on her shoulders, their laughter almost audible. Asterisk. I'm going to do it. I'm leaving Owen. I'm taking Lily with me. Asterisk. Lena's voice, trembling but resolute, replayed in her mind. That was yesterday evening. Now, only silence. A dark, suffocating silence that pressed down on Chloe's chest, making it hard to breathe. The last message shed scent. Lena, please call me. I'm worried sick. Is everything okay? Remained undelivered, but frustratingly, unread. Panic, a cold, sharp blade, pierced through her carefully constructed hope. This wasn't just Lena being busy. This was wrong. Terribly, fundamentally wrong. With a shaky hand, she finally dialed the Canyon Creek Police Department. Her voice, when she spoke to the dispatcher, was a fragile thing, laced with an urgency that belied its quiet tremor. My friend, Lena Maxwell, she's missing. The call found Detective Ethan Cole mid-sentence, discussing the merits of a new evidence tracking system with his partner. Cole was a man whose presence filled a room without needing to be loud. At 45, his face was etched with the subtle lines of a seasoned observer, his blue eyes holding a weary intelligence. A former Marine, he'd seen enough of humanity's darker side in his 15 years with the Canyon Creek PD to temper idealism with a healthy dose of cynicism. This wasn't his first missing persons case, nor, he suspected, would it be a simple one. He arrived at Unit 12, Sunrise Terrace, an hour later. The beige stucco and terracotta roofs of the townhouses presented a picture of suburban calm, a stark contrast to the knot forming in Cole's gut. The address had already been flagged for him by the dispatcher. Chloe Barnes, the reporting party, had expressed profound concern, citing a history of domestic issues. Cole hated domestic cases. They were messy, deeply personal, and often ended tragically. Owen Thorne opened the door, a faint smile plastered on his face, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. He was exactly as Chloe had described. Handsome, impeccably dressed in a casual polo shirt and chinos, radiating an air of effortless charm. Too effortless, Cole thought, observing the man's posture, the slight stiffness around his shoulders. Detective Cole, a pleasure, Owen said. extending a hand that was surprisingly cool and firm. "I'm Owen Thorne. Please, come in. I'm so glad you're here. This whole situation with Lena is just unfathomable." Cole stepped into a living room that was almost too tidy, too perfect. Not a single cushion out of place, no stray magazines. He sat on the edge of the sofa, his eyes taking in every detail as Owen settled into an armchair opposite him, his posture open, almost inviting. "Mr. Thorne, thank you for your time. Your wife, Lena Maxwell, was reported missing this morning by a Miss Chloe Barnes. Can you tell me anything about her whereabouts?" Cole kept his voice even, non-judgmental, watching for tells. Owen sighed. A performance Cole had seen countless times. "Of course, detective. It's truly bizarre. Lena, well, Lena can be a bit impulsive, you know. Creative types often are. She's a preschool teacher, you see. Lots of imagination." He chuckled. A low, forced sound. "Sometimes she just needs to find herself, as she puts it." "And when was the last time you saw her?" "2 nights ago, I suppose. After Lily went to bed, we had a bit of a disagreement. Nothing major, just typical marital stuff. She seemed upset, said she needed space. I figured she went to a friend's place, Chloe's perhaps, though Chloe said she didn't." Owen ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair. "Honestly, detective, I wouldn't be surprised if Shed decided to go on one of her spiritual retreats. She's always talking about getting away, finding inspiration." "A retreat? Did she mention where she might go? Or with whom?" Cole pressed gently. Owen hesitated, a faint furrow appearing between his brows, as if deep in thought. "Well, that's the thing. She's very private about these things. Sometimes it's a yoga commune up near Sedona. Other times she just takes off. And she did mention a new acquaintance. Someone she met through her art group. A rather bohemian type, if you catch my drift. She's been a little cagey about him." Owen's tone was subtly dismissive, weaving a narrative of a flighty, perhaps unfaithful, wife. "You don't know this person's name?" "No, detective. As I said, cagey. She wouldn't tell me. Said I wouldn't understand." He smiled, a thin, almost superior smile. "Honestly, I suspect she's just run off with him. She gets these ideas, you know? Free spirit and all that." Cole nodded slowly, making a note. "So, she left with another man, possibly for a retreat, without telling you any specifics, and hasn't contacted you or her daughter for 2 days?" Owen shifted in his seat. "It sounds bad when you put it like that, doesn't it? But yes, it's not entirely out of character for Lena to need space, though the lack of contact with Lily is concerning, I admit." He paused, then added, almost as an afterthought, unless she's been coerced. There was some talk among her more eccentric friends about some sort of spiritual collective, a group that recruits people and then severs their ties with the outside world. I told her it sounded like a cult, but she was intrigued. Cole's pen paused. He looked up, meeting Owen's gaze. 3 different stories in 5 minutes. A flighty wife seeking spiritual retreat, a wife running off with a secret lover, and now a victim of a mysterious cult. The explanations piled up, each more inconsistent than the last, painting Lena in an increasingly negative light, while simultaneously providing Owen with plausible deniability. A truly concerned husband, Cole knew, would have 1, maybe 2, theories, fueled by genuine worry, not a carefully constructed, ever-evolving narrative designed to confuse and mislead. Owen Thorne was either an incredibly incompetent liar or a calculating manipulator. Cole suspected the latter. The feigned worry was unraveling, replaced by the chilling predictability of a man trying too hard to seem innocent. This wasn't a search for a missing person. This was a prelude to a homicide investigation. Later that afternoon, the stark, fluorescent lighting of the police station interview room felt clinical and cold, a stark contrast to Chloe Barnes' raw grief. Her eyes were swollen, red-rimmed, but a fierce determination burned within them. Detective Cole sat across from her, his gaze steady, his notepad open. "Miss Barnes, thank you for coming in again. We're doing everything we can. Just find her, detective, Chloe pleaded, her voice hoarse. Please. She wouldn't just leave Lily. She wouldn't. Cole guided her gently, methodically, through their history. Chloe recounted her 2-year friendship with Lena, the quiet confessions, the hidden bruises. Owen, he was. He was a monster behind closed doors, detective. To everyone else, he was Prince Charming, the perfect husband. But he controlled her, with his words, with his fists, and with Lily. Tell me about that, Cole prompted, his pen ready. He always threatened her with Lily, Chloe explained, her voice cracking. He'd tell her if she ever left, he'd make sure she lost custody. He'd portray her as an unfit mother, mentally unstable. He has money, lawyers, he'd say. Lena. She was terrified. Lily is her whole world. That's why she stayed so long. Chloe then detailed their last phone call. The one just 2 nights ago. She called me. Detective. Her voice was shaking, but there was this new strength, this absolute resolve. She said she couldn't do it anymore, couldn't live in fear. She was leaving him. She was taking Lily and starting over. We spent hours talking about logistics, about how she'd finally get free. That's why this silence, it's not Lena. She would have called. She would have messaged. She wouldn't just disappear. Tears streamed down her face. She was finally going to be brave. Cole asked about Owen's temperament when challenged. Chloe shuddered. He was cold. Not explosive, not usually. Just chilling. Like a switch flipped. Had become utterly ruthless, devoid of any empathy. He loved control, detective. He needed times it. He interviewed other friends, Lena's colleagues from Little Stars preschool. Their stories, though less intimate than Chloe's, corroborated the pattern. They spoke of Lena's occasional visible injuries, her evasiveness, the way her brightness dimmed when Owen was around. They confirmed Owen's possessive nature, his subtle put-downs of Lena in public, always sugar-coated as jokes or teasing. The consistent narrative emerging from Lena's circle painted a starkly different picture than the one Owen had so carefully painted. This wasn't a spontaneous vanishing act by an irresponsible wife. This was something far more sinister. The pieces were beginning to fall into place, forming a dark, undeniable image. Back at the station, a different kind of truth was waiting to be uncovered. Acting on a hunch, and remembering Chloe's mention of the sentinel eye camera on a neighbor's door, Cole had dispatched officers to canvass Sunrise Terrace for any security footage. Most residents had obliged, offering their doorbell camera recordings. It was Miss Clara Jensen, the night nurse, who unwittingly provided the most damning evidence. Clara, a meticulous woman by nature, had immediately thought of the man she'd seen wiping down his car in the pre-dawn hours. She'd retrieved the footage from her sentinel-eye doorbell camera without question, handing it over on a USB drive. Cole and his team gathered around a monitor in the small evidence room. The grainy, monochrome footage flickered to life. The timestamp in the corner read, 4 a.m., 2 days ago. The scene was silent, save for the faint hum of the video player. There, illuminated by the distant street lamp, was Owen Thorne. His figure, distorted slightly by the wide-angle lens, was hunched over, struggling with something large and cumbersome. A bundle wrapped tightly in coarse, light-colored fabric. Cole leaned closer, his eyes narrowing. He could see the strain in Owen's movements, the visible effort required to drag the heavy mass across the flagstone path, then hoist it into the back of his black SUV. The shape was indistinct, but its proportions were chillingly suggestive. Too long to be luggage, too heavy to be trash. The way Owen shoved it deeper into the cargo area, the final, muffled thud, left no room for ambiguity. "Zoom in," Cole ordered, his voice tight. The image pixelated slightly, but the details were sharper. Owen's jaw, clenched, the grim set of his mouth, and the microfiber cloth, as he meticulously wiped down the path afterward. Every action, a cold, calculated effort to erase his tracks. Cole pressed pause, the image of Owen and the shrouded bundle frozen on the screen. The room was silent. A cold knot tightened in Cole's stomach. This wasn't a missing person. This was murder. The video was a silent scream, an irrefutable testament to the truth that Owen Thorne had so desperately tried to bury. The investigation pivoted, immediately shifting from a hopeful search to a grim hunt for a body. The Black Mesa wilderness stretched for miles, a rugged, unforgiving expanse of scrub brush, cacti, and ancient volcanic rock, about an hour's drive from the manicured lawns of Canyon Creek. It was the kind of place where secrets could be kept for decades, swallowed by the vast, indifferent landscape. With the video evidence in hand, search and rescue teams, equipped with GPS coordinates and a grim determination, were deployed. K-9 units, trained to detect human remains, fanned out across the desolate terrain, their handlers urging them on through the rising heat of the Arizona sun. Meanwhile, a more urgent alert crackled through police radios. Information had just come in from a border checkpoint south of Tucson. Owen Thorne, identified by a photo match, had been spotted attempting to cross into Mexico, and with him, a small, blonde-haired girl, Lily Maxwell. A nationwide Amber Alert was immediately issued, transforming the case into a high-stakes manhunt for a murderer and a desperate race to rescue an innocent child. The news hit Canyon Creek with the force of a physical blow. The community, already on edge from Lena's disappearance, plunged into a collective grief and horror. Whispers turned to outright cries of outrage. Chloe Barnes collapsed into tears, her fears for Lena confirmed in the most brutal way, now overshadowed by the frantic prayer for Lily's safety. The next morning, under a sky still bruised with pre-dawn purple, a K-9 unit alerted near a secluded, treacherous ravine deep within the Black Mesa. The search team converged, their flashlights cutting through the gloom. There, nestled precariously between a cluster of thorny mesquite bushes and a pile of jagged volcanic rocks, they found it. A large, canvas-wrapped bundle, identical in shape and material to the one seen on Miss Jensen's video. The discovery sent a jolt of grim finality through the team. With heavy hearts, they carefully unwrapped the crude shroud. Inside, tragically, was Lena Maxwell, her radiant smile replaced by the silent testimony of a life brutally taken. The news of Lena's death tore through Canyon Creek like a wildfire. The shock quickly morphed into collective mourning, then into a fervent demand for justice. That evening, outside the Canyon Creek City Hall, hundreds gathered. Candles flickered in the twilight, casting dancing shadows on the solemn faces. Handmade signs bobbed gently in the breeze. Justice for Lena, no more silence, protect our children. Chloe, her face streaked with tears, stood amongst them, clutching Lily's teddy bear, a silent promise to her friend that her fight had not been in vain. The collective grief was palpable, a heavy blanket woven from shared sadness and simmering anger. Just hours after Lena's body was discovered, the message came through. Owen Thorne had been apprehended. His desperate flight for freedom ended abruptly at a remote border checkpoint. His stolen vehicle surrounded, his twisted plans shattered. Lily, bewildered but unharmed, was immediately taken into protective custody. The relief that washed over Chloe and the entire community was immense, a fragile beacon in the darkness. Later that evening, after a whirlwind of paperwork and emotional reunion, Lily, her small hand clutching Chloe's, was finally safe. Though the scars of loss would forever mark her, she was surrounded by love, a testament to Lena's enduring spirit. Owen Thorne was formally charged with first-degree murder, his smug facade finally crumbling under the weight of irrefutable evidence. The legal process would be long, arduous, but justice, a slow-grinding engine, had begun its work. The story concluded not with a tidy ending, but with a stark image. Owen, his hands cuffed, his future a cage of his own making, facing the full force of the law. And Lily, her small face solemn, nestled safely in Chloe's arms, carrying the cherished memory of her mother's radiant smile, a light that even darkness could not extinguish.